Hey, this is Zachlog the Great, and I am here tonight with two friends to talk about Francis Scott Key's The Star Spangled Banner. The entire thing, not just the first verse that most of us already know. Um, and Nate was not able to join us tonight, so I am here with Chris
Hello.
and with newcomer D,
Hello.
who is showing up as Pepe, which that will work. So, you know what? I'm gonna. D, this is the first time you're joining us. Would you like?
I mean, it's pretty just plain as it is. It doesn't have much in it, I'd say. It just
Okay.
is.
Was there a part of it you particularly liked, particularly disliked? Okay. Well, one thing I'm gonna. Okay. So we were. I'm not sure if this was on air or off. I think it was off.
I actually have it
And
up. It's
go
from
ahead.
Terry Pratchett and Unseen Academicals. It is considered in the Stowe Plains that only scoundrels know the second verse of their national anthem, since anyone spending time memorizing that would be up to no good purpose. He has another good one that I found. Raising the flag and singing the national anthem are, while somewhat suspicious, not in themselves acts of treason.
And I will say one thing. Like I kind of think I understand what Terry Pratchett is talking about with the first one, at least, because it's like if you go through the whole thing, in the third verse, it's like their blood has washed out their foul footsteps pollution, and like it's not the kind of thing we really tend to throw around, considered polite or civil these days.
Well, our relationship with the British has improved a little bit since then.
Exercise your Third Amendment rights. Kick a British soldier out of your house today. And it's definitely more like hard ass than is their version is were their expectations and what they felt healthy and normal. Is that healthier, or is our society healthier? And I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I'd say the key question there is, what do you define as healthy?
Yeah, I mean, Chris. So what about you? Your any big opening thoughts on this one?
Well, to begin with, it just feels weird kind of trying to go beyond the surface on this, because like I don't know about generations prior or after me, but it seems like this is something that sort of like drilled like into your head. Like I remember learning it in school and played before like sports and everything, and it's just sort of like there. It's just kind of part of the background. It's just sort of like just sort of what patriotism is without having to think about it very much. So it's kind of like I read an article once where a flag expert was like looking at the US flag and analyzing it from like a design perspective. And it's weird because you become so comfortable with these things, and it means so much more than like just, a song or a poem or, just an image. So whenever you try to have to like break through that, sort of look at it for what it is, it's just sort of an odd feeling.
It's kind of like if if you were a little kid and you said the Lord every night, and then like as an adult you're trying to think it through, and you're trying to like, okay, rather than just what I'm supposed to say all the time.
Right.
But I was actually reading up on this just a little bit. This is not our national anthem until 1931.
Right. In fact, in my research, I saw that there was even a Ripley's Believe It or Not from like 1920 something that was like, the U.S. has no national anthem, believe it or not.
So, like this, and the other thing, because like I knew something about the context it was written in, that this guy, that under attack, and he was relieved in the morning to see that the flag put back up was the American flag. I was very surprised to find out, again, when I was looking at this, was that this wasn't the Revolutionary War. This was the War of 18. And so that also was like, oh, okay, so this was written after, we'd been a going concern for, I didn't realize that either. So, what was oh crud? Seems a little obvious in retrospect, because he's like he uses this refrain, "Land of the free, home of the brave," to describe the United States, and you would up with that kind of phrase. I don't think you'd have that kind of image before you're even a country. Like, I think that kind of thing takes a little while to develop.
Well, and in the last,
and I
sorry, I think I have a bad connection here. Y'all hear me okay?
Cutting in and out just a little bit. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, even in the fourth verse there, it says, "Praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation," as if those are two separate things.
Oh, and I didn't think about that, because it's also past tense, which you could do that at the time of the founding, but it wouldn't make sense to say that with so yeah. One other interesting thing, looking at it, let's the the first verse, does that Star Spangled Banner still wave, or the land of the free and the home? And I don't think he intended this. But two questions built into that. The first is, does it still wave? Is it has a system of laws which most people can't even, like, literally no one can actually understand our system of laws. That's how out of control it's gotten. I'm not so sure about the question.
Well, I think it's still, we're obviously the freest nation still out there. We're pretty much the only country with freedom of speech enshrined in their constitution. So I feel like freedom isn't really a questionable thing.
Well, I partly agree with you on that, and I partly, we have freedom of speech in the Constitution. At the same time, without actually agree with it, without people who have that as part of their basic fact about the way they view the world, the particular part of it is just a piece of paper, and people actually believe in for ideas they don't like is in the United States increasing, and there's a number of reasons which I probably don't feel like going into now, but like we have these things built in, like you said, to our, but it's not it's not it's for it to unassailable. I guess that would be a good way to put it. So at the same it is part of our laws, whereas in King early actually on teaching a dog to Nazi salute as a joke. So more often than that.
I mean, the Count Dankula case is very extreme, and I mean, really, you shouldn't be prosecuting Mr. Dankula. You should definitely be persecuting the dog there. I mean, that's the one who watches Hitler. But I
mean, the real offender, and it's simple and just undeniable that it was Dankula was for this. Clearly, it was the dog anti-Semitism.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I'm not like. I just think that specifically comparatively, we have the best freedom that there is. So, like, to say and question our freedom, I think there's a thing to that where you definitely need to make sure that you have freedom and, question, do we have freedom? But as far as it goes, I'd say that we have freedom in almost every regard.
It's, I guess, is that? I'm actually looking this up right now. I feel a little silly. Attributed to the only way to being free is to be offering for people to attempt. So yeah, we are free than a lot of the world, but we can't. We all granted, and we have to be ready to defend it. So, Chris, were there any parts of this you particularly liked, or particularly threw you off?
Well, the third verse being so just completely anti-British was sort of surprising. Apparently, there have been points where the U.S. has kind of ignored that. Like, I think World War II was one point where, with our British allies, we didn't want to make a big deal about that. And just in general, it's strange. So, like, the lyrics with the music so ingrained in my head.
Wait, stay there for a second.
I was going to say it's weird because the lyrics and the music are so ingrained in my head, but whenever I try to like keep the music going for the rest of the verses, it's really difficult because the music is just so attached to that one first verse.
I'm not actually sure. I didn't try it. The other verses actually fit that tune well. But and the other thing is, apparently this song actually was not like the tune was actually not originally for the Star Spangled Banner. It was adapted from another. It was adapted from another tune. Kind of what child Is This? Song most of us know is What Child Is This was originally Green Sleeves, but it's another tune and they adapted it to this one. Since this was written during the War of 1812, it's not because it was those Canucks who came down and burned down the White House, as apparently by Justin Trudeau, which I have to say I think that. So one thing I find interesting about much a change of direct. Like the third one is about that war as a whole. Then is about the country as a whole, which is a I don't know. It's structure to the whole thing. I don't know. I feel like we're running dry on this one pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My connection is really bad, so I'm catching barely any of what you're actually saying.
Okay. Well, if we have a lot more tonight, it's okay to do, and we can close this off. Thank you, Dee. And Dee, do you have anything else you want to throw in before we close it out?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, we'll close this off early, and we'll catch you guys in another week or two.
Have a good one.
Let's see.